Should I be counting my calorie intake? Now, I hear this question a lot. It's in the media. We see in the media people, they worry about their calorie intake and their weight and their health. And people worry. We're all worried about calories, aren't we? Well, in my opinion, I don't believe counting calories is a healthy way of living. And I've done it in the past, and I don't do it now, and I'm not going to be doing it in the future. And if you find the information in this video helpful, presumably you're concerned about should I be counting calories as a way to structure my day, my breakfast, lunch and tea, and what I do with my daily behavior and lifestyle. So if you find this information helpful, like the video and subscribe and stay tuned for more. Now, for me, I exercise a lot or have fun while cycling. So training to get fit. You know, for you it might be going on adventures or running or whatever sport it might be. You need to fuel that properly so that you never run out of energy and feel, well, you get that horrible feeling. In cycling they call it the bonk. The bonk. So when you run out of energy, you become sluggish and tired, and well, another one is you call it a crash, sugar crash, or there's lots of different, names and words for that same feeling of just feeling bad. And you don't ever want to feel bad, you want to feel good. Sweet life is the good life. As you can see here behind me, I have a number of foods that I eat every day, staple foods. So sugar, rice, pasta, bread, got some spinach there. Now, for me, yes, I used to be concerned about how many calories I was getting because I don't think I understood. Well, I know now with hindsight that I didn't quite understand how it all worked, so to speak. And maybe, if you're clicked on the video, you want to find out, about should I be eating a certain amount of calories? Do I need to limit them? Do I need to have at least so many, like 2,000 or 3,000 a day? Well, first of all, calories, as they say, are not created equal. Okay? So I've got this little whiteboard here to show you what I'm talking about to start with. So we have 1 gram of sugar here equals, and 1 gram of fat. So we've got sugary carbohydrates on this side and fatty foods on this side with carbohydrates, but mainly a lot of fat in them. So for 1 gram of sugar, you will get 4 calories, and for fat, you get 8. So twice as much. So that means, for example, with a bag of sugar, here has per 100 grams of sugar is 100 grams of carbohydrate. It's the same thing here. This table sugar here, sucrose. So that means that to get the same amount of calories as you would from eating fat, you need to eat twice as much sugar to consume the same amount of calories. Now for me, when I'm exercising, cycling, I do count the number of grams of sugar or carbohydrate. Just to save a bit of confusion, we'll just say sugar because all carbohydrates are sugar and all sugar is carbohydrate. So we'll just stick to sugar because I like saying sugar because it brings a good feeling. Sugar tastes nice, makes you exercise well. So I start off with at least, so I'm doing an easier ride, or for you if it's running or whatever sport it might be, or even in daily life if you've got a manual job or anything, starting off with at least 100 grams of sugar an hour. So for me, and again this depends, the temperature, if it's hot and you need to drink more because you're sweating more, but this is just at least a general rule, well, not a rule, a guideline for life. Rules sound like prison, school. We're not about fun on this channel, not prison and schooling. But so I start off with at least 100 grams of sugar an hour, and then I will raise that as the effort of the training. So if the training is harder, I will increase the amount of sugar I have an hour. So that's anywhere from at least 100 up to essentially as much as I can stomach. So for me, I find that when I get up to about 150 grams, so I use this, make this up in a bottle with water, so sugar water. So I have found that, and this is just through life experience, actually doing it myself and testing it on myself. So I know what works and I know what doesn't work. So up to, for me, I find that when I'm getting up to 150 grams or more of sugar an hour, that actually does start to make me feel a little bit sick, especially when I'm in a road race, for example, where I'm riding for multiple hours, and it can feel a bit sickly. And that's even, other sports supplements that you can use, like for example I've used in the past and still do time to time, especially for the gels in road racing, is SIS. The SIS beta fuel range, so that's Science in Sport. I like to use that because they have a good mix of fructose, and they essentially are remaking sugar, so it's fructose and glucose. So you can just buy this, but they do add a taste to it. You can, if you don't quite enjoy the taste of just table sugar, you can add something like that just to make it taste nicer. So there's just a general, an easy general guideline for, at least when you're exercising. But on a day where perhaps you're not exercising, so in terms of calories for that, as I say, so one gram of sugar is 4 calories. So 100 grams of sugar is 400 calories. So if I'm having 2 bottles of that, that's already 800 calories. Okay, so if I was to have the same amount of calories in terms of the weight of carbohydrates for 200 grams of sugar, well, if I was to have 200 grams of fat, so the same weight, so 200 grams of sugar and 200 grams of fat, in terms of supposedly getting in my energy, where I get my energy from, well, that would be 1600 calories, and that would only be 800 calories. So you can already see from that example that it doesn't really make sense to count calories, does it? Because I'm already starting off from, well, if I'm already at 1600 calories and I don't want to necessarily eat much more than, let's say, 2000 or 2500, and you've already had that much just from, a few hours of exercising, for example, then, you're already starting to go down the road of disordered eating, and that can lead to eating disorders. And in my opinion, we need to look for longevity in everything that we do. So not just jumping on a fad diet, for example, and it doesn't work out, so you're looking for answers. Well, your answers are here, so stay tuned. So when I'm not on the bike and exercising and having fun, well, adventuring on my bicycle, I eat a lot of rice. So the thing with rice is, when you're looking up on the back, dry weight, when you cook it, the volume increases, dramatically. So in terms of 100 grams of rice, so 100 grams of rice here, 375 calories per 100 grams. Okay? So you might be thinking that's fairly similar to sugar, isn't it? Fairly similar. So 100 grams of sugar is 400 calories. Now, another reason not to count calories is we need to understand just at least the fundamental, energy systems of the body. Now, it's not boring, it's just we need to understand just the basics. So at least understand glycolysis. So this is the main energy system that the body uses to produce energy, to move and to fuel all of the cells in your body. So the human body on average has around 3 trillion cells. So can you imagine that? Every one of those cells, every day, every minute of the day, every second of the day, needs to be fueled 3 trillion. That's trillion, not billion, trillion, or more in some people. The number one most efficient and the primary fueling system is glycolysis. So that is glucose derived ATP. So ATP is what we use to fuel, is part of the energy system that we use to make the human body work and run, and to literally run and cycle and do everything else that you do in your life every day. So as soon as you start eating carbohydrates and sugars, the body starts to break them down, and you immediately, within seconds and minutes, can start to use this sugar that is released from digestion, starts to be digested in the mouth and then in the stomach and then in the small intestine. Sugar is released into the bloodstream, and the blood carries it to the cells where the 3 trillion cells use it to live every day. But if you're using fat as your main energy system, then fat does not work the same way as sugars. So whereas sugar is very quickly metabolized and you can start to use the energy that it provides, fat does not provide the energy that you need quickly like that. And it can take hours, even days, for that fat that you've eaten to be burnt as energy. And in fact, it can be even more than days, because, I'll give you an example. I used to eat a lot of these, they're called naked bars. So here in the UK, probably got something similar wherever you are. This is a raw fruit and nut bar, but essentially it's mainly nuts. So this is very fatty, quite fatty for what you think it would be. It's like advertised as healthy fruit and raw nuts and whatnot. There's minimal processing and blah blah blah. But these are very fatty. So the fat that you've eaten, and these I think are advertised to be something you'd eat as a snack, and even when you're exercising and whatnot. But the fat that you eat will be absorbed and just deposited on your body. So even when you're exercising, the human body cannot process fat so that all of the fat that you eat gets burnt off and you don't gain weight. Whereas sugar is burnt off either through exercising, and if you don't use it directly through that, it gets burnt off through heat, any excess sugar through heat and fidgeting, or it can even be urinated out, and this is not unhealthy. Whereas fat, it will just sit on your body, so on your hips, your tummy, or wherever your body deposits it. And you've probably heard it before, other people have said it, and I'll say it again here because I think it's a great term to remind you the fat you eat is the fat you wear. So if I ate these crackers and packets of crisps and the nuts, all of that fat that I'm eating will just be, broken down and absorbed and deposited in the fat cells around my body. And even with exercise, I could, even if I did, hours and hours and hours, 20, 30, 40 hours, equivalent hours of working a full 9 to 5 job, just trying to burn off the fat, I wouldn't be able to burn enough fat off to get lean and stay lean. Whereas with sugar here, which is what we use to fuel ourselves, this allows you to stay lean, because sugar, again, it's a myth, really. Scientifically, yes, the body can turn sugar into fat, but it is very inefficient, and the body is trying to always, work efficiently. So it will turn under very, strange circumstances. So it's been tried in the lab, people essentially to try to force the body to create fat from sugar, and it does happen, but literally it's just grams a day. So over weeks and months of forcing the body to put on excess fat from sugar, so essentially feeding people lots and lots of simple sugars, having them do no exercise and just controlling it, they will very, very slowly put on extra weight. But fat, almost, it's about 95 to 97%, somewhere in that region of, so if you eat 100 grams of fat, about 95 grams of that will just be deposited in the body. The body's very efficient at doing that. So I hope this, maybe clears up a bit of misunderstanding about calories, calories and counting calories, and should I count calories? You don't need to, and you don't need to worry about it. You should, only count just so that you never run out of energy, enough carbohydrates and sugars. So on the bike, I've already told you a general rule. Always start 100 and then increase it, and keep note of how much you had. And did you start feeling tired? We'll add a little bit more. Did you not feel tired anymore? Well, then you've found what you need to have. So again, when I'm, not on the bike and I'm just, it's my lunch or breakfast, then I will eat to feel full. So you might be wondering, well, how many calories is feeling full? Well, I recommend, starting on rice as your staple, and keeping a diary of how much rice you felt made you full. So that literally, for me, that's usually for one meal, that's 300 to 400, maybe 450 grams of white rice with a nice sauce. And I just eat until my body tells me, yeah, you're full, you don't need to eat anymore. And I listen to the inbuilt systems of, well, do I feel thirsty? Well, I'll drink. Do I feel hungry? Well, I'll eat. Essentially, we don't need to worry about, well, I can't trust, I've got an addiction to sugar or whatnot. Well, I've already said there's 3 trillion cells in the human body, and they run primarily on sugar. So can you understand that if all of those cells in your body, as they start to run out after you've, it's been a while since you've last eaten some sugar, they're calling out unconsciously, and the body, it has feedback systems, and you can feel it consciously. Well, I feel hungry, and that's where it comes from. That's why you feel hungry. It's because all the cells in your body are saying, I need more sugar because we're getting low, okay? So you don't need to worry about trusting these basic instincts. The hunger drive, the thirst drive. If you hold your breath and you need to breathe, do you have an addiction to air, to oxygen? Well, no, because if you didn't have it, you would die. Just like with sugar, and water. You will die without them. So you can trust your natural instincts, internal instincts. Okay? So if you're wondering about, well, I need to know how many calories just as a basic outline. Well, it's not possible, is it, to tell you, because I've already said calories are not the same. So if we go back to, this, for example, I've got some spinach here. So per 100 grams of spinach, there's 77 calories in it. So if I was just to, for example, eat only spinach, can you imagine how many kilos of spinach I would have to eat to get some arbitrary amount of calories? I would never feel full on this, and I don't think it would actually be possible to eat enough, physically fit enough spinach in your stomach to get what you essentially need is the carbohydrates. I mean, per 100 grams, 77 calories of energy, and there's almost nothing in it. So there's almost no carbohydrates and a little bit of protein. There's more protein in this than there is fat and carbohydrate. And you're essentially just getting the micronutrients from this, so iron. So say you just need to trust that feeling of being full, and carbohydrate is what satiates you. So a good way to understand this, if you think, oh, well, that's not true. Well, when children are asking for, I remember when I was young, they say, well, I want the, fruit first before my main meal, or I want my sweet first before my main meal. So like my ice lolly or whatever it be. Well, no, you got to eat your vegetables first, and then you can have your sweet dish, fruit and whatnot afterwards, after the main meal. Well, why do we say this? Well, it's because the sugar in the fruit and the sweets, so literally gummy sweets or ice cream or whatever it might be, that satiates you and you don't want to eat anymore. And you might not have thought about it that way, but now that you've heard it, it might become quite obvious. So you don't give the sweets before you've had the broccoli and whatnot, because they won't eat it because they'll feel full and they don't want to eat anymore. Whereas if you have fatty foods, for example, like these, so like crisps, for example, the reason why you can just sit down and start eating so many is because, yes, they have carbohydrate in them, but a lot of the calories you're getting is from fat, which is not satiating. It doesn't satiate you because, again, we've already said the main source of fuel for your body cells is glucose. So if you're getting it from fat, the body has to work harder in order to break that down to produce sugar from fat, which is not efficient and is not the primary energy system for the human body. Now, if you have any further questions about what I've said, put them in the comment section and I'll either reply or I can make more videos. I enjoy giving out this information, which, again, I test what I say. So I don't just take what other people are saying, regurgitate it out to you and not know what the consequences of those actions are. So I know from my own experience, and I'm not some freak of nature, I'm exactly like you and everyone else that you see in your life. So I eat sugars, carbohydrates, sweets, all of that nice stuff, pasta, bread and rice and fruit, and and I enjoy that. Keeps me lean all year round. So for me, 65, 66 to 67, 68 kilos all year round, and I'm about average height, about 5'10", 5'11", and I very, very occasionally will have some fatty foods, and I can do that occasionally because my baseline weight is always lean. I don't have to worry about losing fat in order to be able to eat fat. So I'm already lean, but essentially, I stay clear of the really fatty foods, and it's very easy as well. If you have, well, these staples, but if you want, the other things like pizza, you can have low fat pizza. If you want ice cream, you can have low fat ice cream, and it won't make you fat. You don't need to worry about counting the calories, because as I've outlined in the video, it just will lead to eating disorder. Personally, I've seen it. We see it in the media every day. People, they're worried about, well, I'm too thin, I'm too overweight, I'm carrying too much extra weight. Well, if you just stick to the basic, outlined, advice that I've given in this video, you won't ever have to worry again. But as I say, if you want more information about exactly what I can eat, I've done other videos on the channel, and I'll do more, because more is better. More is better. More sugar is better. Okay. Remember, sugar is your friend. Yes, sugar is your friend, and fat should be left behind. Okay, left behind, and sugar is good. Okay. So I'll see you in the next one, and thank you for your time. Ciao.